You are a workaholic.
I'd like to think I have more balance in my life now than I've had recently.
You are always working, and you're actually currently finishing a column as you're on the air.
My column for tomorrow is not done yet. I just finished one today. It was posted on Twitter about 8:30 this morning, and I'm really kind of working actually right now to schedule some tweets for tomorrow morning. It's all about time management this time of year.
This is amazing. So you're scheduling tweets as you're on the air with us.
This is correct. I feel like I'm 60% done with my scheduled tweets for tomorrow morning because you know what? You don't have enough time. I read a great quote over the weekend by Mark Twain. You really want to? This is tremendous right now.
So the best way to get ahead, ask for it.
The best way to get ahead is to get started.
Okay.
So
not bad.
But it's great to see you.
Stay humble, stay hungry, my friend.
Stay hungry, stay humble.
So you actually made news because you are looking to trademark a tweet, a slogan. Can you talk about this? Am I allowed to talk about this?
That's something, maybe down the road we'll get into, but there's nothing there now.
Okay, so I can say the phrase?
And we can also, yeah. This is March.
This is March.
I only tweeted it 7 times yesterday.
This is March. There is a story out there, apparently John can't talk about, that he's looking to trademark This is March. And so I didn't know, because there are some trademarked phrases I can't say on the air.
I mean, come on. And by the way, it rolls off the tongue better than This is April.
Or This is October.
All right.
Okay, so let's get into the brackets here. Is the South the group of death?
No. I have named all the regions accordingly.
This is what you do,
and This is what I do. So I look at the South region right now.
Well, is it the toughest region?
Well, I see great defensive teams. Virginia with Tony Bennett, Cincinnati with Mick Cronin, Tennessee with Rick Barnes, and then a 4-5 showdown with an Arizona coach Sean Miller team and also a Kentucky team with John Calipari. And right now, I look at a situation where I see the South region as the region of grit.
The region of grit.
The region of grit.
Okay. Region of grit. Not region of death. Okay, region of grit. Do you think it's the toughest region?
I think Virginia definitely has the toughest road right now, but I think
out of
the ones for sure.
Okay.
I think Kansas has a clear path to the Elite Eight when you look at the Midwest region, which I've named the region of royalty, because look at the top 3 seeds. You have Kansas, Michigan State, and Duke, and Villanova, I think, as well, if it can get by the round of 32 matchup with either Virginia Tech or Alabama. That is the region of stewardship. Now, why is it the region of stewardship? Because you have unbelievable point guards right now in this region. Villanova has Jalen Brunson. We also have a Texas Tech team with Keenan Evans. The 4-5 matchup, Javon Carter of West Virginia, Landry Shamet of Wichita State, and then Florida, the 6, has Chris Chiozza. And look at the play-in game. Jalen Adams of St. Bonaventure against Aaron Holiday of UCLA. And on this holiday, nobody takes anything off.
Wow.
The region of stewardship.
Region of stewardship. Why not just the region of point guards?
Well, I had to come up with something creative.
Okay.
Plus, by the way, just for the record, as I get older and I'm trying to get more balance, even though I was very excited about breaking down Vermont this week, and they killed me on Saturday by losing to UMBC, I have bought a thesaurus recently. So stewardship was something that I came up with to show how I'm broadening my approach.
Word of the day. I like this. Okay, and then finally the West. What is your nickname for the region in the West?
The region of balance. Because this region, to me, you look across the board, has the most balance when you look at teams capable of getting to a Final Four. Xavier 1, they've never been a 1 before. North Carolina a 2, but not in vintage North Carolina form for all intents and purposes, because they have a scenario where they're playing small ball. A 3 is Michigan, red hot, and then your 4-5 is Gonzaga and Ohio State. A lot of options to pick to go to a Final Four. Therefore, a region of balance.
I love you, Jon Rothstein from CBS Sports, CBS Sports Network, CBSSports.com, because I feel like you have rehearsed all of these answers in the mirror before you even got here.
No, to tell you the truth, yesterday I think I was on the air close to 9 hours, so probably 6 hours after the bracket ended. So by now it's like kind of just rolling off the tongue. I feel I have equity built up, so on and so forth, up until Thursday about 12:10, and everything else is going to go in the nearest fireplace.
All right, let's talk about 5-12s. Everybody loves to see the 5-12 upset. Is there a 5-12 out there that you feel is most vulnerable to the upset?
Well, I got to tell you, one of the best coaching jobs this year that a lot of people did not really notice nationally was what Chris Jans did at New Mexico State. New Mexico State won a game this year against Miami on a neutral court in the Diamond Head Classic. Also won a game against Illinois. And I know Illinois is not obviously vintage Illinois, but it's a high major team. The one thing I always look for when I'm trying to identify teams that can pull off an upset in the NCAA tournament, do you have high major transfers and guys that have played well in other places? A.J. Harris, who has started his career at Ohio State, is on New Mexico State. Also, Zach Lofton was a guy who played at Illinois State on a good team and Texas Southern on a good team. He is the leading scorer for New Mexico State. But the Aggies' most interesting player might be 6'5" Jermario Jones, one of the best rebounders in college basketball. At 6'5", had 5 games this year with 20 or more rebounds.
Whoa.
And I don't have just New Mexico State beating Clemson. I've got them picking off Auburn as well.
Is that right?
For a showdown with Kansas in the Sweet 16.
Wow. Okay. That's going out on a limb. I like that. Okay, so New Mexico State could be a sleeper for Jon Rothstein. You say North Carolina hasn't gotten there the traditional way. They played really well in the ACC tournament, fell to Virginia, obviously, but they have a tremendous transition offense yet again. They push, they score points. Can North Carolina, as a 2, get back to a 3rd straight Final Four?
Without question. And I think the unique thing when you look at the Blue Bloods of college basketball this year was when I think about Mike Krzyzewski's teams at Duke, I think of teams that played with great skill. A skilled 4-man. Grant Hill in the 90s. Justice Winslow in 2015. Brandon Ingram in 2016. When I think of Roy Williams at North Carolina, I think of a dual post attack like he had at Kansas in 2003 with Drew Gooden and Nick Collison, like he had last year with Isaiah Hicks and Kennedy Meeks. And now I look at what Duke's doing with Bagley and Carter, and I look at what Carolina's doing with Luke May and Cameron Johnson. Duke is playing like vintage North Carolina, and North Carolina is playing like vintage Duke. It's almost like the Bizarro episode of Seinfeld.
I like this. It would almost be like your name was Roth Johnstein or something.
That might be a little bit of a stretch.
Okay. So let me ask you about Duke, though, because Marvin Bagley might be the best player in the country.
Yeah.
Do you think it's him? Do you think it's DeAndre Ayton? Who do you think is the most interesting player, the best player?
DeAndre Ayton is less than a god, but more than a man. Okay. That's the best way to describe him right now. He is cut not really from human form, but rather a piece of ice when you look at his body. I mean, this is maybe the most physically gifted player that we have seen in the NCAA tournament in our lifetime. And I got to tell you, great coaches are great competitors, and obviously a lot of them are at their best with their back against the wall. Look at what Sean Miller has been through the last couple of weeks, and look at the fact that it's already been public knowledge that DeAndre Ayton, Rawley Alkins, and Alonzo Trier have all said publicly that they're not coming back to Arizona next year. We don't know what's going to happen with Arizona's recruiting because their recruits have decommitted amid this FBI investigation. I expect Arizona to use that situation as the incubator for a great turnaround. And right now, I have DeAndre Ayton and Arizona coming out of the region of grit and going to a Final Four.
Is that right? Okay. All right.
Less than a god, but more than a man.
Less than a god, cut out of ice. Okay. So the Big 12, best conference in America this year?
Not without question.
Okay. So do you believe that the Big 12 then carries that over to March? People filling out the brackets should pick Big 12 teams to go deep.
The Big 12 does not have one team in my Final Four, and I want to point this out,
Interesting.
too. This, to me, was the best coaching job that Bill Self did at Kansas, because think about what he was able to accomplish this year in a season in which the Big 12 was the deepest it has ever been. And he won a Big 12 tournament title without Udoka Azubuike. However, I think this is an extremely vulnerable Kansas team, but it's a vulnerable Kansas team that got a very favorable draw. And with all due respect to the teams they're going to be playing, is NC State or Seton Hall going to be able to beat Kansas in Wichita? I don't see it. And then you look, obviously, at the other portions of the top side of the regions of royalty, the Midwest region. Yeah. We have Clemson against New Mexico State. I like New Mexico State.
Yeah, you like
And I think also I like, obviously, New Mexico State to win 2 games. The College of Charleston-Auburn matchup is interesting. Charleston, when you look at what they have a player up front, Jarrell Brantley, that could be a factor against Auburn. Remember, Auburn is playing without Anthony McLemore, their starting 5-man who had the ankle injury a couple weeks ago against South Carolina. I have the Tigers winning 1 game, but then I'm going to take Chris Jans and New Mexico State all the way to Omaha. And as we know, Omaha is all we know is Omaha is not just somewhere in Middle America this month.
Wow. So do you have the Aggies of New Mexico State knocking off Kansas?
No, I have them in the Sweet 16.
Okay.
I'm going to have a Kansas-Michigan State regional final in the region of royalty.
Okay.
And I've got the Spartans moving on. So I've got the Spartans moving on out of the region of royalty. I've got Arizona out of the region of grit. The region of balance has all sorts of potential combinations. It feels like we're at the blackjack table. When I am going to take John Beilein and Michigan out of the region of balance.
Two Big Teners.
Both
and Michigan
then
teams.
I have the East region right now, and this is one thing that's very important because this matters. Where did Jay Wright play when he got to his first Final Four in 2009?
What city? I don't know.
Boston. Where are they playing this year?
Okay.
Boston. There is good karma for Villanova in Boston. As long as Villanova can get by the round of 32, and I think it will be Alabama, I like Villanova to get back to the Final Four, advancing out of the region of stewardship with the best compass in college basketball because he points the way better than anybody, Jalen Brunson. So I have Villanova, Michigan State, Michigan, and Arizona. Now, I have been on record saying that this could be one of the more unpredictable NCAA tournaments that we have seen in recent memory. And for all intents and purposes, I think it will. And when I looked at my bracket last night, I only saw one seed in my Final Four, and that's what I think illustrates how wide open it is.
So that's really interesting. But you have a 1, a 3, a 3,
and a 4.
And a 4. So you don't believe that the lower seeds, maybe a double digit, like somebody's going to be dancing.
It's possible for sure. I just look at things, and look, I want to preface this real quick. The more you watch, the worse you do with these things. So
right.
That's why you have to keep that in mind.
And you watch a lot.
I think one thing we need to look at is there are so many I don't know how many teams are capable of winning a national championship. There might be 20 to 25 teams that are capable of winning 4 games again into a Final Four.
I think that's fair. Yep, I think that's fair. Jon Rothstein joins us from CBS Sports, CBS Sports Network, and CBSSports.com. Are you also buying
Not CBSSports.com anymore.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
FanRag Sports Network.
That's right. I apologize.
Sorry.
FanRag Sports Network. I would imagine, though,
Thanks for reading.
I could watch. I would imagine that I could watch many of your clips from CBS Sports Network at that website.
Probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, are you also of the opinion that Michael Porter Jr. at Mizzou makes Mizzou one of the more dangerous 8 seeds that we've seen in recent memory?
Well, there's 2 ways to look at this right now. I look at the situation with Michael Porter Jr., and obviously you want to add a talent like that, okay, for all intents and purposes. But I also think that, rhythm and chemistry are a big part of collegiate athletics. And I think when you look at the rhythm and chemistry that you have with Missouri, they're a 20-win team without him. And obviously you want to welcome back a lottery pick. But Duke in 2011, if you think back right now, lost Kyrie Irving a month into the season, and they gave Nolan Smith the basketball. And with Nolan Smith, Duke was good enough to get a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Kyrie came back. They won 2 games, if you remember, in 2011 in the round of 32. The second game they won was very close. Darius Morris of Michigan missed a layup at the buzzer. Duke won by 2. And then they were obliterated by Arizona and Derek Williams in Sweet 16. Their chemistry and rhythm was never right. I understand the need to play Michael Porter Jr., but I think also there's another side of this that could disrupt some chemistry.
Interesting. Okay. So, final question is going to be, is there, outside of New Mexico State, is there a low major or a double-digit seed that you feel pretty good about? We've got about 20 seconds left.
Loyola of Chicago, Clayton Custer, a transfer from Iowa State. Watched him in practice a couple years ago when Fred Hoiberg was there. Winning culture under Porter Moser. Definitely a good opportunity to upset Miami here in the round of 64, and that is also part of the region of grit.